back with the breaking news. Take a look at the Dow, down about 3% right now, almost 1,200 points. Markets falling after President Trump once again criticized the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, calling him a loser. NBC's Brian Cheung is here following this for us. What's happening here?
Yeah, well, we can see the Dow Jones down on the screen ahead of you, down over 3%. By the way, I want to point out over the last month, the Dow Jones is down 9.6%. So it has not been pretty for anyone that's been checking their portfolios. But it seems like the market action today is really hinged to those remarks that we heard from the president via Truth Social this morning, where he again doubled down on this rhetoric that he's been harping on over the last week of being disappointed with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's action on Federal Reserve interest rates, or maybe lack thereof, because the Fed hasn't done anything, hasn't changed interest rates in their last few meetings. But the president clearly urging the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates, describing Mr. Powell as, quote, Mr. Too Late, saying he's a major loser. He said Powell has always been too late, spelling the word too wrong. But I want to point out here that the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, who, by the way, was put into that position by President Trump during his first term, is used to this type of bashing publicly. We have to remember, even during the 2018-2019 trade war with China that the president was waging during his first term, he described Jerome Powell as having no touch. He can't putt. He described in 2019 that Jerome Powell was, quote, like a stubborn child. So I know that when people see these headlines and say, whoa, this is a big deal that the president is calling his own Fed chair a loser, but Jerome Powell is pretty used to this. I think the question here is, does the Fed get tilted at some point into having to lower interest rates? That did happen in 2018, 2019, when financial markets were out of control, as well as the concerns about the economy substantially deteriorating as a result of these tariffs. I mean, this is all kind of deja vu, Chris, and you do wonder whether or not a similar situation is going to play out here. But clearly, investors pretty rattled by it.
Well, yeah, the fact that it is not anything new for him to attack Jerome Powell. It is years, but even recently, in recent weeks, he seems to be every couple of days has something negative to say about Jerome Powell. Why such a negative reaction in the markets?
Yeah, well, I think it's because you already have the uncertainty of the tariff policy. We've been talking over the past few weeks that if you're a small business, if you're just a household trying to budget out for the next few months, it is really unclear the impact of these tariffs. So you're going to be very, kind of hunkering down. You might be putting more money into your savings. That could lead to a contraction in economic activity. Compile on top of that the concerns over the steward of the U.S. economy, the Federal Reserve Chairman, who, as the head of the central bank, levers interest rates to try to steer the economy clear of a recession. If you don't know if that person's going to be in that job in the next few months, that is definitely something that just introduces another layer of uncertainty. Although I should point out there's legal ambiguity over whether or not the president has the authority to fire Jerome Powell. The president did post on Truth Social last week that his termination can't come soon enough, referring to the Fed chairman. His term ends May of next year, but maybe there's this concern that he could try to boot him and spur that legal challenge earlier than that.
Brian Cheung, thank you.